My fellow friends, we have a great topic for today. This video is going to be exactly for former athletes that were playing a sport, either going professional or something, and something happened in their careers, and they had to pivot. And if you can relate to that, maybe you're struggling with your identity. And I'm saying this because it was actually last year. I had this girl that she was a former runner, professional runner. She was qualifying for Tokyo 2020 for the Olympics. And she's been practicing the sport since she was pretty much the day she was born. And before the qualifying, she got hurt. And she tore her Achilles. And she was not able to keep competing, was not able to keep training, and had to retire early. And because for 20 plus years, running was everything she knew, for 2 years, she found herself in this dark place mentally, literally a hole, because she made her whole identity the sport that she was doing. And, she came to me and we started talking about this and her life and everything. And it was awesome. But I do think a lot of people find themselves there. Especially if you're a former athlete or you had that dream or something happened financially or physically, injuries or unexpected stuff. And sometimes life just hits you right in the face and you have to pivot and change your plans. And that can be a tough thing to do, especially if that's all you've known. So I'm going to make this video exactly for you guys. Now, I'm going to be talking about my life and what we did, what happened to her and kind of like how she was able to overcome this, and some tips and things you guys can implement if you find yourself in this situation. When I first moved to the States, my dream was always to become an athlete. I love sports with my life. I was competing in motocross back in Chile, and I started competing in motocross when I was here. And I had to come to realization, first of all, I was competing with kids that they had so much funding from their parents, and they were kind of like years ahead of me when it comes to dirt bikes and competing and everything. So I had to choose, okay, what do I want? I had to be real with me. First of all, I had to say, do I have what it takes to become an athlete? Because I was living in Utah at the time, it was snowing, I couldn't train. And, I pivoted, my purpose was still the same. But I had to recognize that my plan, how I was going to fulfill my purpose, it was going to be through sports and everything, but I could change that. The goal was still the same. I still knew my vision and what I wanted to do long term. Now, how I was going to do that, I had to pivot and change it to something else, and that became entrepreneurship. Now, do I still practice sports? 100,000%, because it's all about a mindset and keeps me in check physically and always competing. But I went from an athlete to becoming an entrepreneur. And it's very tough because if you are an athlete, former athlete, and you had something unexpected happen in your life, you make that your whole identity. But I'm here to tell you guys today, first of all, you're not what you do. You're more than that. In fact, I think a lot of athletes struggle with this, former athletes, because you take them out of the sport that they're doing, and there's literally nothing else. And that's a problem, because you cannot make your whole identity whatever task you're doing. And I want to make this video so you guys can have a bigger perspective on life. That if we take that sport or the activity that you're doing, what's left? If there's not a lot of things left, you've made the sport your whole identity. Now, that's what happened to this girl that she was competing for Tokyo 2020. And first of all, something that I preach a lot, if you watch my content, Instagram, YouTube, or whatever, or my podcasts, that we're always talking about your spiritual identity and what's your spiritual purpose, why you're here right now. And I truly believe that you guys are a spiritual being having a physical experience. You're not a physical being having a physical experience, but somehow we make everything our priority, the physical experience, instead of working with our spiritual, mental first, internal, and then externalizing that. So if you're a former athlete and you had to pivot, you had to change, unexpected things happen in your life, I think one of the biggest things you guys can do is, first of all, redefine your identity. Because if that sport was taken away from you through an injury, financial problems, or family, or whatever the heck it happened, or maybe it was just a personal decision. You got to ask yourself this question: who am I? Who am I? And you got to answer that question on a spiritual level. Who am I? And there's a few things that I always tell people, like, if you're listening to me, if you watch my content, you are unique already. You're very different. You're very aware in your life, and that's awesome. And most of the people that listen to our content, they're Christians too. They have a lot of faith. So you got to start spiritually. First of all, guys, when it comes to your spiritual identity, you're the son and daughter of a creator. You're the son and daughter of a king. What does that say about you? A prince or a princess. You have a divine identity spiritually. And, even though that task or sport, that whatever you guys were doing, that's, a big part of your life, I can promise you that you're more than just that. And all those skills that you had as an athlete, the resilience, the grit, work ethic, discipline, being able to adapt, being able to compete at a very high level, being able to be in the zone and lock in and be extremely focused, you can develop and translate those same skills when it comes to entrepreneurship. That's why what I've seen and what we work with this girl is she went from being a professional athlete to becoming an entrepreneur. But this is the thing. If you jump as, okay, I'm not an athlete, I'm just going to become just an entrepreneur, and something happened, you're going to have the same identity problem. It's not just changing the task. I want you guys to think bigger. You have way more to offer to this world than just whatever title you have. Athlete, entrepreneur. You're more than that. That's why you got to start with the big picture. What's my impact that I'm trying to achieve? What's the legacy? You have 1,000 athletes, more than 1,000. You have a gazillion athletes out there, a gazillion entrepreneurs out there. But only a few of them are actually remembered. Only a few of them actually create the impact that changes other people's lives. And that's what I want you guys to do. Not just be another statistic, not just be another number, but be someone, an entrepreneur, a leader that just changes everything. And something that I've realized about this stuff, the most influential athletes, entrepreneurs, or just people in general, they're evangelists. What does that mean? If you look at the definition, I'm not just talking about like in a religion way. I'm talking about like I'll explain the principle. In an evangelist is that they believe in a cause and they preach that cause. They chase that mission. They preach that mission. Think about the people that you look up to. Entrepreneurs, athletes, public speakers, CEOs, or whatever. Most of the people that you look up to, they're not just an athlete. They're not just an entrepreneur. They live a lifestyle, they live a mindset, they're preaching a specific message. They're doing something way more than just the sport or the task or the mission or whatever it is that they're doing. And that comes down to an identity thing. What am I good? Who am I? What does God see in me? What's my purpose? What type of impact can I create? So it was very cool because that was something that I saw in myself. I had to come to terms that I'm like, dude, I'm more than an athlete, but also I'm more than an entrepreneur. I'm more than just what I do. And that's something that I remember when this girl came to us and we started working together. There was just so much pain because that's the only thing, like the only life. So you literally have to rebuild your identity. But in order for you not to go back and make the same mistake, you got to start spiritually. You got to start mentally. You got to build that foundation. A lot of people, they struggle with their confidence and their self-esteem and their self-worth because they attach those things to physical things. Results, body, winning, and X, Y, and Z. But the problem is those things change. So you cannot, if you attach those things to a result, your confidence and self-worth and self-esteem is going to be up and down the entire time. So what can we do to attach our confidence and our identity to something that's constant, that spiritual thing? What I've learned when it comes to true confidence is that it's a mental state. And I learned this about 2 years ago when I was competing. I was doing ultra marathons, Ironmans, and everything, and I had to have surgery in my left leg. And I had a knee surgery and foot surgery in the same leg. And for 2.5 months, I couldn't walk. A month and a half from those 2.5 months, I was in my bed. I couldn't work out, I couldn't run, I couldn't do anything else that I was doing but stay in my bed. And one of the things that truly helped me to stay fulfilled, stay focused, but also be confident in bed, because I couldn't have results, I couldn't do the work physically that I was doing. but it's because I base my confidence in who I am as a son of God, as a creator, because my father is a creator, as the son of a king. So that's why I said that confidence is truly a mental state. It doesn't matter if you have the results that you want in life right now, or maybe you have obstacles, or maybe you were an athlete but not anymore. If you can base your confidence and your worth, attach that to a spiritual way, God is always going to see you the same way. So if you can make your confidence, his confidence in what he sees in you is always going to be a constant, regardless if you're having the results that you want right now. So, I don't know, it's something that I saw in former athletes, I saw it in myself, I saw it in this girl, and it's tricky because you've done that your whole life. And then that thing's like taken away. And I can really see how that can affect your confidence and your self-esteem. So I just want to end with these guys. You're not what you do, you're more than that. And if you truly want to build a house, a strong house that is never going to fall, you don't start with the walls, the roof, the windows, the doors. You start with the foundation. And I'm going to repeat this a gazillion times. You're not a physical being having a physical experience. You are a spiritual being first having a physical experience. So if you can discover and remember who you were before this life, in the premortal life, what skills did you possess, attributes, gifts, and talents that God gave you, that yes, you were able to show them and externalize them in your sport, but you have them in you. You can translate the same skills into whatever you do. You're not what you do. You're more than that. You're the son and daughter of a king, of a creator, and that says a lot about your identity. Love you guys. If you have any questions, drop down in the comments. If this is something you were able to relate, join Team 20U, which is a private team for entrepreneurs, former athletes, and high-driven professionals that would talk about faith and fitness, purpose, and how you can excel in your peak performance as well. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.